Um, Hope that I'm connected to Abhinaya Bharati Facebook page. With that hope, I start my presentation of today. Um, a very good evening to all the viewers of Abhinaya Bharati Facebook page. At the outset, I thank Dr. Arvind Kulkarni, the founder of Abhinaya Bharati, and even Dr. V.T. Nayak sir, and even the entire team who have been working on this platform. And of course, they are creating such a huge platform to many talents to come up with their talent and expose to the world. Uh, Today, I'm here to express my understanding of the play, The Death of Salesman by Arthur Miller. In this little span, what the organizer has given to me, I try to touch upon some of the very significant aspects of this play. As we all know that Arthur Miller is one of the very significant um, playwrights and essayists of 20th century. I don't want to discuss the plays what he has written and these all the aspects because of the constraint of the time. We find the influence of the Society of America during the time when this play was written. Mostly you might have heard about American Dream. This particular phrase, why did I mention it here? Because the play, what I'm going to discuss today, that's the Death of the Salesman, has one of the very significant aspects, or what we say, the elements, that is the American dream. To better understanding of this play, we should have better knowledge of, the American dream and its concept and everything. I find this play very significant for three reasons. I don't mean that only these three reasons are the significant, the elements or the aspects of this play. Every reader, when they deal with the play, they find their own elements to get into and find the new things, and such a kind of liberty all the readers of modern era have. And as I told, I concentrate on the three very significant aspects. The very first one, it addresses the loss of identity and man's inability to accept the change within himself and in the society where he lives. Accepting the change is very significant. When I concentrate on this a particular phrase, I remember, I just wanted to give one of the examples for it. And today, in what situation we are during the pandemic, many of us, even many age-old people who never touch even the keyboard phones, and they started using the smartphones, and they are connecting to each other, though they are very far away from, and keeping themselves in the corner of the world. They are connecting. This is what we should accept the change. And suppose we did not accept the change, what happens? And obviously, we are going to lose the mental peace, which is very significant to lead a very happy life. We find the lack of this particular thing in the protagonist of this play, Willie Loman. I come to that, what all the characters we find, and how the characters are builds in the play and everything. And second, important reasons why I find this play very significant is the contradictory nature of the protagonist of the play. That's Willie Loman, as I told you. Um, I mean here the contradictory, in the sense the lot of confusions what this particular character has throughout the play. He has lot of confusions in each and every aspect and in each and every step of his life, and obviously that leads to the tragic end of the protagonist. And the third important reasons I find the quest for order. Everyone in the life they want to have some orders. If the order disturbs, and if we come across any disorders, and that leads to the tragedy. And keeping these three important, the significant aspects, I thought of to discuss the entire play, which is of two acts. Um, Before dwelling into the analytical part of my presentation, I thought of to brief the plot construction of the play. Keeping one thing in mind, I'm in such a platform where we have the viewers or the listeners of from the different part of the streams. Some of, I don't mean that none of you have read the play. Many of you might be very familiar with Arthur Miller and his plays, of course, Death of Salesman, which is considered as the masterpiece of his among all his plays. Um, but I'm addressing to such viewers who not yet read this play. Unless I talk on the plot construction, they never catch me better what the analytical part I'm going to discuss on this play. This play surrounds the life of a miserable and age old salesman. In fact, we find we can treat him as the protagonist of the play. Of course, all the characters can be the protagonist. Keeping, Linda, you can treat her as the protagonist, or any character for that matter. But here I treat Willie Loman as the protagonist because the whole play surrounds the family and his dreams, which he wanted to aspire in his life. And he lives with his family in New York City in the late 1940s. I just mention the era in what Willie Loman and his family lives, because 1950s is the era where you can find in American society a kind of radical changes has been taken place in with respect to the consumerism, or with respect to the technology and everything. I come to that part later, part of my presentation. And they were living in a home for last 20 years when the play began. And the house, once set apart from other homes, now it is surrounded by apartment buildings. And whenever he looks this kind of change, Willie Loman makes feel very closed in. He feels a kind of uncomfort with kind of change what he has been coming across in his life. This particular thing, nowadays also, even our the parents or grandparents used to tell us that the village in which we were living were somewhat different, and now they have been changed a great. And such kind of the changes has been taken place. And take for example, the Bangalore city is considered as the city of gardens. But now it is the city, of course, no doubt, but without any gardens, as they were talking about with respect to the Bangalore city. Um, and Willie Loman, as the age factor, having trouble concentrating on his driving because, as I told, he is a salesman and he has to move from one place to another place, and entirely his the job depend on the traveling, and all the days he is in the travel, from the beginning to the almost end of the play. And often due to the age factor, he makes lot of many mistakes. Take for example what we come across in the play, while crossing the white line or driving off the road or running the red lights, while stopping for the green lights, and such kind of things tells us and gives the hints to the readers that he is unable to concentrate on his work. And when I read this particular part of character of Willie Loman, and it makes me to recall one of the very significant short stories written by R.K. Narayan, The Gate Man's Gift. And in Gate Man's Gift, Govind Singh was the protagonist of that story. He was a retired military man, and after the retirement, he joined as a gatesman in one of the offices, and he served for many years. And once he decides that he wanted to take a voluntary retirement, and the reason is very interesting, to take a voluntary retirement. That is his plays. I still love this phrase what R.K. Narayan has brought while explaining the reason why Govind Singh wanted to take the voluntary retirement. And his ears and eyes playing the tricks upon him, upon me. I wanted, due to that reason, I wanted to take the voluntary retirement. And this particular, the phrase always haunting to me. And now, nowadays, leave Willie Loman aside for a while. Uh, now keep ourselves in the position of Govind Singh. Are we ready to take as in government employees or employees, workers in the different sectors? If something goes wrong with our organs or something goes to, if we become incapable, are we going to take voluntary retirement? The big question mark arises. We need to ask ourselves for keeping ourselves in the position of Govind Singh. And I just recall this Govind Singh's character, little comparison. I just try to make it here. Willie Loman, the man, age-old man like Govind Singh. Govind Singh decides to take the voluntary retirement, but with respect to Willie Loman, he doesn't want to quit his job. Instead, as his age increases and his thirst for money and thirst for to have all the worldly comforts, what I say, in his life, and to give all the comforts to his family, has been increasing. And there's no end for the quest, when the thirst for money. And in one of the essays of J.C. Mill, I think in Good Manners, very long ago, I read this essay, and there I found one interesting thing. What is the philosophy of life? And the answer to this question was given in that essay. What is the philosophy of a life in modern world? The philosophy of the life in the modern world is nothing but earning money, and how to earn money and how to spend money. And this is what the philosophy of the life. I just recall these things when I go with the character of Willie Loman here. Come back to this plot construction of the play. His wife Linda, Mrs. Willie Loman, of course, she treats as the champion of Willie Loman, and she can better understand him and what all the changes has been taking place in his behavior and his thinkings and everything. And she feels sorry for a kind of stress what he has been welcoming due to have all the worldly comfort in his life. At the beginning of the play, Willie came home from a business trip because he has trouble with his driving, as I said. He's also concerned because his sons are not progressing in the business world the way he had hoped they would. And obviously, all poor or middle class family parents will be having such a kind of aspirations or the dreams for their children, and they always look forward the comfort what they did not have and the worldly pleasure what they did not have. Let our children have it, let our children aspire it in this life, in their life. And Willie Loman is not an exceptional for that. And he is unhappy, and he has two sons. When the play begins, they already crossed 30. And Happy, the name of the character, the elder son of Willie Loman is Happy. And of course, he well settled. Of course, he has a job and he lives in his own apartment. And Biff, the other character, and younger son of Willie Loman, um, he is much worried. Willie Loman is much worried for his second son because he never stick on to one job in his life. He shifts or moves from one to another job and fails to earn money and have the comfort in his life. He is much worried because of this fact. And they never leave with their parents. No nuclear family concept in the society, or leading the life going away from going out of the family and finding their own way of life is part and partial of American society, the Western world. It's not like what we find in India. When they turn teenage, they go out of home, and even parents welcome it. They never object it. But as it's totally different with Indian society, of course, nowadays it has been a great change has been taken place, undoubtedly. But still, we cannot be in the shoes of Western world with respect to this. And Willie has been demoted from a salary employee. Salary employee here means he has an employment, and after he demoted from that employment, and he was working as a salesman on commission base. And how much he works, that much commission he has to earn. And due to that, he was having lack of money, and lack of money builds a great stress on him. And this means he makes less money to support his family and his children. It leads Willie to, as I told, great stress on his mind. He thinks he is living in an earlier time in his life. He speaks to people who are not there, and he disturbs his friend Charlie. Once his friend Charlie came to his home, and they both always play the cards to have the entertainment and everything. Once he was playing the card with Charlie, and he started feeling that his elder brother, of course, he was no more in the play. He never appears on the stage elsewhere in the play because he was dead. Mr. Ben, his brother, and he is the man who is rich enough and he always started thinking that he was finding his brother there, and he was talking to him, and such kind of mental disorder has been taking place in the character of Willy Loman. And even in case of Govind Singh, I don't want to describe the entire story. Govind Singh, the beginning of the play, he holds the letter and asks everyone to read it without opening the letter, registered letter. And the people, initially started convincing him without opening the letter, how can we read it? What's inside? And slowly they started calling him as a saint or madman. Initially he did not accept. It happens with all of us. Once somebody tells you something goes wrong with me or to somebody, and initially we never accept that fact, and later we started accepting it when number of people tells something goes wrong with me, or something is not good with me, and slowly I accept that. And even Govind Singh in that story accept the fact that he is mad, and he started behaving like a madman. And I just recall this Govind Singh characters here, and here Willy Loman lost his mental stability due to the stress factor. And even Willie, Charlie leaves because he doesn't want to play the cards with such a man who is not having, the stability. But Willie is still talking to Ben. Of course, no, Ben was there in the room, but he feels that he's there, asking him how he made his fortune. As I told, Ben is a rich man, and Ben had gone to Africa. And through Willy Loman's words only, we come to know that his brother is well settled with all the worldly comfort, and even he made every possibilities of leading a very comfortable life to his all children. And he was talking to his brother, and how did you make great fortune for you and to your children and everything. And even Willie has such dreams and sees this very bright future for his children. But in reality, this was not turning true or come true. Initially in the play, Willie was not happy with his sons, and later he turned soft for them. Biff and Happy, as I told you right now, these two are the children of Willie Loman and Linda, are surprised at the turn their father has taken, because always Willy Loman blamed, and with respect to Biff, he always gives a phrase, a lazy man, he never settled and he is not serious, and this that always scolds him very badly. But they were really surprised when Willy Loman turns very soft and very good to them. And Happy knew that his father, Happy here means his elder son, knew that his father would often talk to himself. And they even Linda and Happy both knew the fact that he started having some, he started losing his mental stability, and he started occurring a kind of disorder in his mental stability. But did not know he was so loud about it. The severity of the problem they don't know, and how often it occurred. And Biff, meanwhile, had no idea his father was behaving in this manner. Now their mother tells them, that is Linda tells them, the car accidents which Willie has been having are in fact attempts to at suicide. Many a time in the play, Willie Loman tries to or attempts for suicide. uh, the boys agreed to try to stay closer to home. After knowing this fact, his father or their father, is in the Great Depression, and at least now we can become a little closer and give some comfort to him and make him happy by starting a new life, uh, and stay closer at home and start business together, so that if they start the business they can earn good amount of money, so that they can lead the better life. And keeping all these aspects, Biff decides to ask his former boss for a loan to help start a new business. uh, and this play, as I told at the beginning, is in two acts. At the beginning of the second act, Willie and Linda are full of hope for their family's future. They started making lot of plans for their future, and how to settle and where to settle, and how to earn money, and how to lead comfortable life in their in future. Willie is going to talk to his boss Howard at the beginning of the play, when Linda came to know that Willie couldn't concentrate on his driving and attempts number time for the suicide. Uh, and she tries to convince him and told him openly that you should go to your boss, that is Howard, and tell him that to make a change in his job from that of traveling salesman to salesman in the store. Due to the age factor, you just go and request him. He may listen to you and make a changes in your schedule and everything. And they are also hopeful about Biff and Happy's future business venture. If Biff can receive the loan from his former employer, then it will mean a bright future for the boys. And keeping all these plans in front of them, somewhere the readers feel that at least now Willie can have some stability in his life, and have some mental relief in his life. But immediately a kind of change occurs due to the two facts. One, as Linda suggests, Willie Loman goes to his boss, Howard, and asked him kindly make changes in my job, because I cannot concentrate on my driving, and I cannot give the justice to this work. Better if you shift my job to the store. Uh, though I continue as a salesman, but I couldn't travel outside the city, and let me be inside the city and work for you. And of course, he was very aspirant, positive, the aspirant with respect to the reply, what he can receive from his boss, because he did so much for the growth of their company and their business. But Howard is very practical man and very business minded, capitalist society in what they were living. Capitalism, rich become richer and poor becomes poorer. I don't want to talk much on that aspect. We all know this, and he doesn't want to bring such kind of change with respect to his job. And instead, when he said no, for such kind of opportunity right now we don't have. And Willie Loman felt very bad, and with he has that kind of right, because he Willie Loman worked for his father uh, for the entire growth of their business. and his contribution was greater in the uh, development of their business. With that liberty, he scolded Howard, and he did not sustain his words, bad words, and he hired him from work. This is one of the reasons, again, what we can find out a kind of mental disorder or loss of peace in the life of Willy Loman. And the other aspirations, what they had, Biff, as he told, he wanted to approach to his boss and ask for a loan to have money so that they can start up with a new business, but they failed. Even he went, of course, and approached, but of no use. And everywhere they find the failure. Biff and Happy have made plans to meet their father in a restaurant. I'm coming to the last part of the play with respect to the plot construction. Restaurant to celebrate the anticipated good news from the day. Of course, there is no good news at all. Of course, it all the bad news. The two boys, they left. They, of course, they called their father to the restaurant to celebrate something new. They left him and they went with some girls, and such kind of nature of his own children made him to recall his deceiving nature to Linda. Of course, he has some extramarital relationship, and when you read the entire play, you can come across a kind of what extramarital relationship he had earlier. He feels very sorry for that to Linda when the play begins. At home, Linda is furious with the boys because of such behavior, leaving their father behind at the restaurant. And she tells them it would be better if they left and never returned. It means that Biff and Happy, they were away from home. They had their own way of life. But when they come back, and they all together, they had the wonderful plans for their future and how to have much fortune in their life and everything. And when these two children left in father in the restaurant, and again he started behaving very badly and losing his mental stability, and she feels sorry for her own children. If you did not turn to home, it would be better. At least he could somehow I could have managed my husband. This kind of feeling she expressed in front of her own children. Willie and Biff finally tell each other how they feel, which makes Willie understand this his son loves him. Willie Loman decides, the insurance money of $25,000 would benefit his family. He talks to Mr. Ben, and decides to kill himself. That is, at the end of the play, he suicides and dies. Afterward, after the death of the salesman, Willy Loman, Linda has a hard time dealing with Willy's death, and she cannot bring herself cry. She never shed tears because she keeps on, waiting for him to return from another business trip. Because throughout the life, Linda had such a kind of life with Willy Loman. Always he is outside in his salesman trip, and she's adjusted with that, and she started feeling that my husband is she not ready to receive the fact my husband is no more, and she thinks that he may be in another trip, might have gone outside, maybe turned back. She is sad because finally the house is paid for, and now she doesn't have a house at all to share with it. And this is the entire plot construction of this play. uh, as I told you at the beginning, my literal presentation starts now. Now let me come to the next part of my presentation. For the better understanding of the play, as I was talking at the very beginning of the play, with my beginning of my presentation, we need to know when the play was written and when all the rapid changes, what all the rapid changes taken place during that period in American society. Because I've been talking on American society, Arthur Miller, American writer, and the entire setting of the play is in the family and American society. What kind of society they had that time? And the play was written in 1948, and it was first staged in 1949. That was the time we find remarkable changes with respect to consumerism. I mentioned it at the beginning part of my presentation, and technical advances in America. Many inventions and innovations applied specifically to the home. Miller expresses, the writer of this play, an uncertainty toward modern objects and the modern mindset. Although Willie Loman is deeply flawed character, it was an era that the traveling salesmen are rapidly becoming out of date. You can come across. I recall one of the movies. I'm not getting the title. In that Kannada movie, Sudharani enacted. Recently, I watched that movie, and small scale industries like small shopkeepers, and how they their life was in a great distress or the misery due to this capitalism or capitalist society, the mall and online shopping and everything, and how it damaged the life of many poor people, and how it make them to dwell into the great misery. uh, on the other hand, this play tied up intimately with the idea of American dream. This is what I was talking, this phrase I was talking at the beginning. This is one of the significant elements to get into this play and understand it better, which is the concept of opportunity. And I already told you regarding Arthur Miller's essay Good Manners, and what is the philosophy of the life, and making money and how to spend it, and that's what the life is. This is what the modern concept, what it is mentioned in this essay. America claims to be the land of opportunity, of social mobility. Even the poorest man should be able to move upward in life through his own hard work. Only with the hard work can man can come up and have all the comforts of his life. Miller complicates this idea of opportunity by linking it to time, one thing, and illustrating that new opportunity does not occur over and over again. Of course, our elders and even the teachers, parents used to tell, and of course, when all the comforts and all the opportunities will be given equally, But some of us make the best use of it, and some of us may misuse and spoil our own life. And representing such kind of people, we find two characters in this play, that is Bernard, Biff's friend and his batchmate in his studies. Bernard is also given the equal opportunity and the same comfort and everything. And even Biff, the younger son of Willy Loman, also given the equal opportunity. But Bernard make the use of it and studied well. And when the play moves, you find Bernard standing in the High Court and Supreme Court and arguing a case. It shows that the success of his life, why he got that success. He made the best use of it and he got the success undoubtedly. But when it comes to Biff, he fails. He fails himself because he thinks that I turned teenage and I'm here to enjoy my life. Somewhere we find Biff, the character as the character of a womanizer character. He spoils his life by always enjoying instead of getting into the studies and making the best out of it. These two stands as the representation of many people, not only in American society, and we find such people in the entire world, in the different part of countries, or with respect to any society for that matter. And this play is an exploration of the way in which the existence of the American dream can ruin person's expectations. Uh, Willy Loman had dreams to have all comforts in life, but as a mediocre salesman, uh, he could not achieve his dreams. His children were also, as I told, sailing in the same boat. And last part of the play, they just wish to have new business, and through that they want to earn money and lead the comfortable life as the dream of his father. But they did not succeed in that. Uh, his children were also sailing in the same boat. That's what I said. As an age old man decides at least his sons can occur his dreams, so that he kills himself. The question arises to the new readers of this play, uh, what's the connection to the death of this salesman, that is Willy Loman, and how that death can bring the fortune to his children? There is a the aspirations lies in the mind of Willy Loman, and he decides that suppose I die and my children at least get the insurance money, a huge amount of money from insurance company. It goes to my children and they can have all the comfort, at least they can lead better life. I failed in that, at least my children get success. With that aspiration, he killed himself. He desperately dies. um, but still it is a big question mark at the end of the play, whether even after the death of Willy Loman, his children will be getting the insurance money from the company. It's still doubtful because there is a big record with respect to his number of attempts he made to get suicide. It is recorded. If it is not the natural death, they never get the money. this is what the tricky thing, you know, Arthur Miller has brought here. Coming to the last part of my presentation, this play explores the psychological quest of the protagonist, Willy Loman, and his belief in providing for his family and leaving a legacy behind after death. Undoubtedly, even after the death, can he give the comfort? You can see he cannot, because it's still doubtful that their children can get the money. Willie, at the end of the play, commits free himself from his confusion and the struggle of providing his family. Uh, I feel this play is very apt even today. The struggles what Willie Loman had in the play are with many people of today, undoubtedly. Poverty is on the rise in many countries. Even it never leaves America. America, as we say that the big brother to the world, and the people who are not really aware of the poverty, the poor people's condition in America, always think that in America the people are rich and lead all have with all the comforts and everything. When we read this play, we come to know, and it is not different. The poor people's life in America is not that much different from the poor people even in India or in any part of this world with respect to any different countries. In India, when it comes to India, recently we come across, if we go with the statistics of many suicide cases of farmers. Of course, I feel very humiliating when I made this remark. Um, Poor people, when they fail to have this mental stability, they turn to suicide. Of course, money is not the big matter, part and partial of life, but in reality, when they don't have any other go in their life, they obviously go for the suicide. And another thing always haunting to me is failing to gain worldly comfort or the fortune or the money leads men to undergo suicide. This is the question always hunting. Most of the time, I don't think so, because uh, if that is the case, why many rich and even many key officers moved to welcome death by themselves? And we have such many instances in front of us as of now. I think Willie, apart from his quest for worldly comfort, he has some psychological problems too. As I was talking about his instability, mental disorder, and talking to his brother Ben, and that in that conversation with his brother, dead brother Ben, in his illusion, that how did you make this kind of fortune, and such things tells that it has some other different elements to get into the play. If we read the play very closely, we find Willie, the character, with many confusions and mental disorders. The loss of meaning or the perceived inability to fulfill it can be seen as the principal cause of mental breakdown and suicide. Uh, these lines, I think, sounds true even today. I think Arthur Miller proved it in this play. Uh, I think I just conclude with these words. Um Before leaving, I show my gratitude. I just completed the entire part of my presentation. Um, of course, any the success of any text or the work of a writer lies in one thing, that is, if it leaves some questions in the mind of readers or in the mind of spectators or in the mind of the listeners, and there the success lies. I think this play throws some the light on the how the miserable condition, the thirst for money, and the people who lags behind money, and only this worldly comfort can be the real comfort. If they, of course, that is part and partial, it is needed, but it is not the entire life. That we need to understand. And suppose we understand that, and we can have the peace in mind and lead the happy life. Tragic end of Willy Loman teaches us that we should not lag behind the money. That's what I find in this play. And another aspect, it raises many questions. Why people goes for suicide? Why they want to end their life with their own hand? If the death is the solution for everything, if ending up the life is the solution, and I think we all never be in this life today. With these words, I conclude. Before leaving, I show my very sincere gratitude to Dr. Arvind Kulkarni and even Dr. V.T. Naik sir and even Jyoti madam and the entire team of Abhinaya Bharati, because bringing the people on screen live is a very great task. As I've been working on it, I know it better. But they have been doing great work on it, and giving a great platform to many talents, as I told at the beginning. Um, and I thank for this opportunity, and giving a space for me to spend my time on this platform, valuable time. I thank all the viewers for your patience hearing. Even I look forward for enlightening remarks by Dr. V.T. Naik sir after my presentation. Indeed, his remarks obviously help me out for my improvement in reading and understanding the various texts. I thank you once again. More than anything, life and health matters. Take care of yourself. Good night. Namaste. Thank you.